So the famous song says, you can't have any pudding if you don't beat your meat. So today we're gonna, eat your meat. Whew, we're still gonna use this anyway. So I guess this would be like a poor version of beef stroganoff type dish. But we start with a chunk of steak. This is just top sirloin, number 49. And we're going to cut this first into strips. Since this is thick, we're going to cut it thin strips. You'll see why later on. And by thin, you know, ½ inch or so. Not like that. You can trim off any icky parts. That'd be the connective tissue and chunks of fat and stuff like that. What my dad would call grizzle. This does take a little bit of time prep work, but it is still fairly easy and it's inexpensive. You can use a cheap cut of meat, and the cheapest is better. Alright, now we got them this way. Now we want to look at them and see if they're too long or too wide. They're the right width this way and the right thickness, but this one's too long. We want to cut it about like that. And we can just them off to the side. So basically about in half. This long one though, it's going to be in about thirds. Now it's getting a little short. Let me get some saran wrap so we can do the next part. Okay, so what we start with is a piece of saran wrap down. We put meat on, piece of saran wrap on top. Use this side. And pound it out flat. If you really wanted to be extra good, you'd pound this side too. Now it's super flat, super thin. What it does is it breaks down a lot of the connective tissue. So now when we cook this, it'll absorb more flavor as it pulls back a little bit, but it'll also be a lot tenderer. A lot more tender. I guess tenderer probably isn't the proper word. And it doesn't take much, it's just a couple whacks with a mallet. That one was way more tough, that's why I hammered it twice. Second time starts to break apart a little too much there. The saran wrap keeps all the little bits of meat that sometimes come off the ends from flying across the room. That's why you use it. Alright, now since I've handled raw meat, I'm going to wash my hands and we'll be right back. Okay, so I cleaned up a little bit here. Now, we could just do our meat like this and fry it up and put it in there, but it'd be bland as hell. So, we're going to season it with a little bit of red wine vinegar. That'll add a little bit of tartness. A little bit of liquid smoke. That'll make it taste more earthy, like it's been cooked outside on the grill. Of course, paprika. Y'all know I love my paprika. And then we will mix that. Oh, I'm gonna have to add more vinegar. There's more meat there than I thought. Now that's absorbed all the seasonings, we can add a little bit of our oil too. It's just to even out all these seasonings so they mix so it's not all clumped on one piece of meat. This will even it out. We're gonna put some oil in the pan anyway, so it's not like we're washing off the seasoning or adding too many calories to the meat or anything. Oh yeah, this is not a diet food, by the way. So if you were thinking that you're going to lose weight and eat this food, you're not. Unless you eat very small portions. Very small portions. Okay, you know what that's at? Let's take our frying pan. A little bit of oil. And there's still some water in the pan from when we washed it, so it's probably going to pop and make some noise here. Okay, it's good enough now. I can add our meat. You want to spread this out, and then we're going to reduce the temperature of the heat down to low. Because we don't want to boil this or anything that would make it hard. I mean, we just spent all this time tenderizing it. And try to spread out the clumps. They'll cook more evenly that way. Alright, we put that on low heat. Now, while this is on low heat for the next 10 minutes, gives me time to prep the sauce. Mushrooms. We're using mushroom soup, and so of course, like anything, if it's good with a little bit, it's better with more mushrooms. More is always better. You could just break these up with your fingers. I'm being fancy today since we're on camera and using a knife. Otherwise, they do just snap real quick and easy with your fingers. You can snap a whole bunch of them in half. That's what I normally do. It's just because I do want some chunks in there. I don't want too tiny of chunks. Or too big of chunks. Like that'd be too big. You go nuts in them, they'd be too small. Alright, now we can... The rest is all about the right size. Notice I bought these pre-sliced today. Sometimes they're cheaper to buy pre-sliced than whole for some reason. So they were today. The meat, it gets about like that. It's time to turn it over. And you just go through and turn over each one. That's why it's kind of nice that we beam out into big flat things. And you thought I was kidding about boiling it. You see how there's all this moisture? That's directly from the meat. You saw that the vinegar absorbed, the red wine vinegar was absorbed almost instantly. So some of it's that reconstituting back out of the meat. A lot of it's the moisture that's already in the meat. Alright, we got a few more minutes on that. Let's boil the noodles. Before we do that, let me discuss one thing here. Cream of mushroom soup. Campbell's, pretty much standard. There is other generic companies that make it, but I just always get this one, because that's what you're supposed to do. Now though, they're pulling a scam, and that's this. It looks the same kinda, cream of mushroom soup, except for this one is ready to serve. This one you add 1 can of water. This is what you cook with. This is what you would drink if you actually ate this stuff as real soup. But what they do is, why it's a scam is, it's the same price, it looks the same. People buy this thinking they're getting this, and they get ripped off because this is half water. You're buying half water, getting less soup. That's a scam. Never buy that. But you do need 2 cans of this, of cream of mushroom soup. Otherwise you would need 4 cans of the other stuff, and then you'd have to render out all the moisture, and oh my god, that would be so much like work. No, just buy 2 cans of this, the good stuff. When you have your large pot of boiling water for egg noodles, you just dump them right in. And they will boil and cook and be done in about, I think it's 7 to 10 minutes. So it gives me that much time to finish the other sauce. And turn up the heat a little bit. So this extra moisture that's in the bottom ends up being the moisture that we use for the soup. Just opening the cans of soup, getting everything prepped. The mushrooms I'm dump right in now. I'll let these mushrooms cook for just a few minutes while everything's cooking. Tempted just to grab some. It looks really good. It smells really good. Yes, it seems like a lot, but see, the noodles are going to be dry. So the sauce here is a sauce for the meat, the mushrooms, and the noodles. Temperature down. Check on my noodles. Good to know there's only one real way to check a noodle. Needs a few more minutes. That's gone. We're just waiting for the noodles now. Well, since I'm going to watch the noodles, I'm going to keep the lid on. I never leave a lid on boiling noodles unattended because they'll boil over. There's some myth that you can use a wooden spoon to break the tension of the bubbles, but it doesn't. What I do find is a lid on a pot seems to make the pot hotter. It keeps the moisture and steam and pressure in, increases pressure a little bit, just a little bit, increases temperature, things cook a little better. But you have to watch the bubbles because they won't bubble over. So it's basically pull and watch, pull and watch. A lot of times I don't use a lid for pasta or rice, just for that reason. Too many carbohydrates make too many bubbles. See? It's kind of fun in a way. No bubbles? And we watch them form. Lots of bubbles. No bubbles. Let's see that again. Lots of bubbles. Alright, but I think the noodles are done now. Let's test one. I don't even have to until just by looking at them. See how extra soggy they are, and Egg noodles start to open up as they get more well done. So these are what you'd call good enough, meaning they're done. Drain the water off real quick. Alright, a trick at this point to keep your noodles from sticking, you have minutes to do it. You have two options. Either scoop them up on your plate and add your gravy or sauce, add a little oil or butter to it, and that will also work, and that will keep them loose if you're going to have leftovers. I know from making this before that that's enough to feed my family, and there will be no leftovers because I love this, so I'm just going to do them as it is. Alright, let's scoop up some noodles. Of course, pepper. This one doesn't need salt so much as it needs pepper. I don't add salt because the soup, the cream of mushroom soup, any processed soup in a can already has a ton of salt added to it. Get a fork? We can try this here. I want to try some of the meat first. So first time I made this because my son was young, and with his baby teeth, he couldn't eat real steak yet. Or solid, steak's still hard for him. So this was a way I could pound the meat out and make it way more tender so that he could eat the steak. Definitely tender. And you can't go wrong with egg noodles. These are always good. This is a good dinner. It's a poor man's version of beef stroganoff. And I beat my meat, so now I get to have some pudding. And I'm done. Can't have any pudding if you don't beat your meat. And I beat my meat, so now I get to have some pudding.